Un nākamā uzstāsies Anastasija Skopenkova un ļaus mums atkal pabūt kosmosā.
Labdien! Hello! My name is Anastasija Skopenkova and I'm a conservator from Art Center ZUZÄNS and ZUZÄNS collection. And I would like to present you a project called Problems in the Investigation and Preservation of ZENTA LOGINA'S works in the ZUZÄNS collection, painting Walk in Space. The research provides insights into the investigation and preservation challenges faced in modern art, along with a description of the restoration process for ZENTA LOGINA'S three-dimensional painting from 1980, titled Walk in Space. The focus of the project lies in decision-making based on the initial investigation of the artwork, which includes examining its structure, materials used, and the artist's creative intentions. Firstly, I would like to provide a brief introduction to ZENTA LOGINA'S artistic heritage and the available research information. ZENTA LOGINA is a pioneer of Latvian abstractionism, having worked with various mediums, such as painting, textile art, sculpture, and graphics. Her creative work nowadays is called the Gold Fund of Latvian Nonconformist Art. There are numerous aspects of her artistic heritage that can be explored. During the major part of her career, Logina has been painting realistic figural compositions. However, after her retirement in 1963, ZENTA LOGINA underwent a rapid stylistic change within her focus towards abstract forms. Unfortunately, the works created during this period remained unseen during the artist's lifetime. Furthermore, Logina faced rejection from the Union of Artists, which seriously influenced the financial means for being able to paint during the Soviet era. After her death in 1983, ZENTA LOGINA Museum Foundation was established with the purpose of preserving a unified collection of Logina's artworks. Later, in 2019, the entire ZENTA LOGINA Foundation became a part of ZUZÄNS collection. So nowadays, it's an object for scientific and historical research. Within this collection, works of art, unused artistic materials, everyday items, and an archive of the artist's notes are all stored together. The research focuses on Logina's artistic materials, her techniques, and restoration, which have not been previously documented. Remarkably, none of the artist's works have undergone restoration, with the exception of certain classical pieces. The ZUZÄNS collection encompasses not only Logina's works of art, but also items from the artist's studio. These items consist of artistic materials and notes in which the artist documented her numerous experiments with various paints, varnishes, pigments, as well as non-standard combinations of materials and coatings. Among ZENTA LOGINA'S personal possessions from her studio, a wide range of unused artistic materials has been preserved. Many materials from the 1970s remained undried and are still unopened packaging, allowing for comparison between undried and aged materials for approximately 50 years. Through the investigation of the unused artistic materials, it has been determined that the technique used in many of Logina's artworks, previously identified as oil paint, was different. The technical specifications had to be revised following this investigation, revealing the use of gouache paint in several paintings. A very interesting case involves ZENTA LOGINA'S use of fluorescent gouache, extensively used in her paintings, sketches, and sculptures from the late 1960s to early 1970s. The fluorescent paint was combined with traditional paints to create vibrant compositional highlights. These works containing fluorescent paint were likely not intended for exhibition under UV light, and the paints used are highly sensitive to daylight as they are not varnished. Preserving the visual appearance of these artworks demands careful selection of suitable storage conditions. Painting Walk in Space is a three-dimensional painting created by ZENTA LOGINA. Utilized artistic materials, their features and aging tendencies can be determined much more precisely for the painting Walk in Space based on information which has been obtained from analysis from analyzing LOGINA'S experiments with materials and during the research on her artistic materials, and this is an important point of reference for the development of the restoration program. A sketch of the painting Walk in Space can be found in the ZUZÄNS collection archive, which shows the artist's clear vision in relation to composition and tonality. This abstract three-dimensional painting is made on a cotton canvas base and stretched onto a frame. Wires are used to attach the 3D spatial creation to the canvas, consisting of two hollow hemispheres connecting by a curved special cord. The surface of the painting is composed of several types of paint and varnish layers, resulting in a unique visual effect. Initially, one could mistakenly assume that this is oil paint, covered with a toned varnish. However, investigations reveal that the painting surface comprises at least 6 layers, including 4 layers visible in micro cross-section. 2 layers of oil paint are applied over the ground layer, one flat and brownish, and the other thicker greenish-gray. It is possible that these 2 layers was either a preparatory painting or a work that had been started but remained unfinished. The surface texture of the painting is created by a thick greenish-gray layer. A thin white layer of an unidentified substance serves as an adhesive between the oil and gouache layers. The final paint layer consists of bright blue gouache, which is then covered by a thick layer of varnish. The varnish is mixed with pigments in bronze powder, which can be observed under microscopic magnification. The layer of varnish was analyzed using the FTIR method. This investigation was possible due to the fact that admixtures, pigments, and bronze powder can be found in the bottom of the varnish layer in the form of sediment. However, there was no guarantee for successful FTIR investigation, as FTIR comparison spectra are required to determine the material. In this case, a great advantage was the opportunity to make decisions based on LOGINA'S notes, on experiments with materials, and on the used artistic materials. Initially, trials of 5 materials that were visually similar to the surface of the painting to be restored were selected. Using the noted information, examples were taken from unused bottles of varnish for comparative spectra: pistachio, acrylic pistachio, copal, cedar, and white fir varnish. The results could have been influenced by differing levels of polymerization and unintentional impurities. Having seen all the analyzed spectra, the conclusion was reached that pistachio or acrylic pistachio had been used in the painting. However, the wavelength ranges from 1100 to 800 wave numbers, points to the fact that it was most likely acrylic pistachio. Information from the catalog of the Leningrad Art Paint Factory revealed that acrylic pistachio varnish contains a solution of polybutylmethacrylate and pistachio wax, in Pinen, with a small addition of white spirit and butyl spirit. Acrylic pistachio varnish is still being produced in several Russian factories. Unfortunately, no further information about this varnish could be found from other sources. Several types of restoration processes were required for the walk-in space painting, due to tears in the canvas and losses of paint and the layer of varnish. The base problem was not just repair of the tears, but also searches for an ethical way of restoration, considering the fact that the varnish layer is not only a functional coating, but also a part of an artwork. The losses had to be filled in imitating the artist's complicated technique with reversible restoration materials. Before the restoration, experimental trials were conducted with a range of materials. The solubility of the varnish in different solvents was tested. As a result, it was determined that varnish is insoluble in white spirit, and prolonged exposure to moisture causes white areoles on the surface. This information helped narrow down the selection of potential restoration materials. Also, among LOGINA'S artworks, there was a technically similar work that had been started but remained unfinished. This work was used to experiment with various types of glue and consolidation techniques. It serves as a valuable example of trial restoration material, closely resembling the painting walk-in space in terms of materials used and storage conditions. Both the template and the painting have aged similarly, leading to similar adhesion issues between the paint and varnish layers. The most successful results were achieved by plasticizing the raised sections of the gouache paint layers with distilled water. After allowing the layers to dry, they were consolidated using 7% Plexisol adhesive in white spirit. Retouching process. Test examples were prepared by creating a surface texture in several areas, using restoration ground, 6% rabbit skin glue, and champagne chalk. This simulated the surface of the painting to be restored, allowing the primer to be later tinted with pigments and various water-reversible binders, such as gamma arabic, fish glue, and polyvinyl spirit. Different solutions of white spirit and white spirit reversible varnishes, such as Regal Res, Plexisol, were tested for the final layer of varnish, incorporating dry pigments and bronze powder from LOGINA'S artistic materials. The reversibility of materials was also assessed after drying. The restoration encompasses the following procedures. Consolidation of the paint layer. Loose areas of paint were carefully reattached to their original positions whenever possible. A combination of methods was employed based on previous tests. In areas where only oil paint with ground remained in the lower layers, a 6% fish glue solution was used. The loose parts were gently plasticized using a heat spatula at 60 degrees through Melinex film. Conversely, in areas where gouache and varnish layers were also present, a 7% Plexisol solution in white spirit was applied. Prior to this, the raised areas of the paint layer were plasticized with distilled water, manually leveled, and then allowed to dry. Fixing the tear in the canvas. The tear in the canvas was repaired in a gradual process. Initially, the rigid threads along the tear's perimeter were carefully arranged using a microscope. Then cotton fabric, approximately 2 mm wide, was inserted using 7% polyvinyl butyl glue in ethanol. Instead of using new fabric materials, fabric from LOGINA'S collection of artistic materials was chosen for the prosthetic process. This fabric had identical features to the fabric of the painting being restored, including the weave, density, color, and stage of aging. Additionally, a patch of Beva film and thin polyester fabric were attached to the reverse side of the painting to reinforce the tier's structural integrity. Filling in and retouching the losses in the paint layer. The losses in the paint layer were gradually filled based on previous tests. Restoration filling-ins, 6% fish glue and champagne chalk was used to create the desired thickness and surface texture, building up to the gouache paint layer. The restoration fillings were toned with gamma arabic and finally ground dry pigments. Above the toning, a relatively thick layer of 50% regularized varnish in white spirit mixed with dry pigments and bronze powder from LOGINA'S collection was applied. This technique aimed to achieve a similar optical structure to the original layer and reversibility. Conclusions. The restoration process not only involved the restoration of three-dimensional painting walk in space, but also provided valuable insights into LOGINA'S technique and artistic methods. A method was developed to ensure high quality and ethical restoration by gradually uncovering and researching the materials used in the artwork's creation. Non-standard solutions were implemented for consolidating the paint layer and retouching, while considering the specific characteristics of the artwork, material compatibility, and principles of reversibility. The knowledge gained can be applied in the future to restore other works by LOGINA, as well as to artworks created by artists using a similar technique and from the same time period. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Anastasija. Now we have a last possibility to ask question alive, because next stages will be in Zoom. So please ask something. Okay, question from my side. Did you had any problems with this three-dimensional part, this metal?
Yeah, well, fortunately, it wasn't damaged, so it just remained untouched.
And stable?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh.
Yeah.
Because maybe you made different layers with gamma arabic and dry pigments. Gamma arabic as a binding, yes, and another regularized with dry pigments. Did you put layer by layer, or in different places used different retouching?
Well, honestly, it was a bit of artistic work, yeah, but the gamma arabic and pigment layer was quite thick, because it needed to be like covering enough the ground layer, and then I needed to add like thick layer of varnish.
So then you used with regularized, yes?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.